this video, we discuss about the crypto opportunity even bigger than Bitcoin, said by Elon Musk. Well, I mean, I'm not advising anyone to buy crypto or bet the farm on, Dogecoin or anything like that, okay? Don't forget my Dogecoin. You might have been thinking maybe you should, but let me advise you that would be absolutely okay. So, Dogecoin is my favorite cryptocurrency because it has the best humor and has dogs. I did, however, look at the price of it yesterday. It's lower than it was. I think, it's like if everyone has a saying that the most ironic explanation is the most likely. And the most ironic outcome for currency would be that the thing that was made as a joke to make fun of cryptocurrencies, most ironic outcome would become that it becomes the global currency, 20 to 30 year time frame. I think things will be transformed beyond belief. Right, you probably think you probably won't recognize society in 30 years. Like I do think we're fairly close. You asked me about artificial general intelligence. I think we're 3 years, maybe 6 years away from it this decade. So arguably we are on the event horizon of the black hole, that is social superintelligence. If there's one thing Elon Musk knows, it's money. Having first made his fortune from X.com, which later merged to become PayPal, it suffices to say Elon knows the ins and outs of how money works and how money moves. Further, Elon is a fan and supporter of cryptocurrency, following the lead of MicroStrategy founder Michael Saylor. Elon Musk, through Tesla, bought $1.5 billion of Bitcoin to put onto its balance sheet back in 2021. However, in his latest interview with the Wall Street Journal, Elon got asked his latest thoughts and outlook on cryptocurrency. Funnily enough, Elon made no mention of Bitcoin or Ethereum, which he has been a vocal supporter of in the past. Instead, he spoke on what he believes to be the bigger opportunity than Bitcoin and his favorite cryptocurrency, Dogecoin. Although telling investors he wouldn't advise them to buy crypto or to bet the house on Dogecoin, he calls Dogecoin his favorite crypto because of its humor and its incorporation of dogs. Elon's explanation is that the most ironic explanation is the most likely, and he hints at incorporating Dogecoin into a payment system on Twitter. There is a good chance that Dogecoin will outperform Bitcoin and other crypto assets if Twitter fully backs it. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video where Elon also breaks down his latest thoughts on the other exponential opportunity that is all the rage right now, artificial intelligence, and why he thinks it will fundamentally change the way humans live over the next decade. Also, only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. If you enjoy finance content, consider subscribing or liking the video. It's free, and you can always change your mind. The development of artificial digital sort of superintelligence is very much a double-edged sword. So, if you have a genie that can grant you anything, they can also do anything that necessarily presents a danger. And I expect the first uses of AI to be certainly the first government uses of AI. The web weapons technology, so just having more advanced weapons on the battlefield that can react faster than any human could, that's really what AI was capable of. I mean, future wars between countries, advanced countries, or at least countries that have significant drone capability, will be very much the drone wars. Well, I think there should be a significant third horse in the race here. We've got OpenAI and Microsoft, Google DeepMind, and probably there should be a third horse in the race. So a little bit more on that soon. But is it something that will interact with the data of Twitter and the capability of Tesla? Is it something that tries to bring what you've talked about earlier in terms of capability together and become that third player? To some degree, I don't want to jump the gun here on announcements, but OpenAI has a relationship with Microsoft. It seems to work fairly well. So it's possible that XAI and Twitter and Tesla would have something similar. You're pushing hard for a long time. I met with a number of senior senators and congresspeople in Congress, in the White House, to advocate for AI regulation, starting with an insight committee that is formed of independent parties, as well as perhaps participants from the leaders in the industry. Those oversight committees gains insight into what various companies are up to, and just agree that there's competitive dynamics. There's obviously sequestering board members who perhaps have conflicts, but anyway, if you figure out some sort of regulatory board, and they start off gaining insight, and then I have proposed rulemaking, and then that, will get commented on by industry, and then hopefully we have some sort of oversight rules that improve safety, just as we do with aircraft with the FAA, spacecraft and cars with NHTSA, and food and drugs with the Food and Drug Administration, right? And how would that work in such a global thing as we're talking about? where AI and the relative advance between countries are going to be very, very important. Is that something that is globalizable? Is that, well, really a key question is, are we trying to, cooperate with the West? That remains to be seen. But I would still advocate for some degree of oversight. I mean, we have regulatory oversight of aircraft, for example, and yet the US is still very much doing great on the aircraft front, right? So it makes more effort than the rest than any other place. So just because you have, FAA regulations doesn't mean that it's necessarily slowed down very much, okay? So your view would be that the AI changes today lock in the tech giants, the Microsofts, and the Google of this world. Does it also have a scenario where it actually helps to bring in new players and change that dynamic, or is that a much more unlikely outcome? That there are a lot of AI startups. The thing that's becoming tricky is that in order to compete, you need three things. You need talent, talented people. You need a lot of compute, expensive compute, and you need access to data. So whoever's succeeding on those three will wins. So now that the cost of compute has gotten astronomical, it's now, could have sort of minimum ant, I would say, a minimum would be $250 million of silver hardware minimum. That's like just to write relevant in any way. So the startups are more likely to piggyback off what the others are doing rather than compete directly themselves, is what you're saying? Yeah, to train a big one, are you going to take a SpaceX trip yourself to train a model of probably GBT biosize? I wouldn't be surprised if they use at least 30,000, maybe 50,000 to 100s, which are the latest GPUs, and also it's not quite the right word, but the latest technology from NVIDIA. And then you need to run inference as well. It's a lot. The GPUs are this point considerably harder to get than drugs. Actually, that's really not a high bar in San Francisco. Personal services, I think AI will be ushering an age of abundance, assuming that we're in a benign AI scenario. I think the AI will be able to make goods and services very inexpensively. And so, in anything that is a product or a service where there's not artificial scarcity created, such as like, I want to live exactly in this, neighborhood houses, it's like, okay, well, there's only 100 houses there. So, that would still have scarcity, or a unique artwork would have scarcity. But anything that does not have scarcity that we deliberately design to these guests will be plentiful for everyone in a benign scenario. And in the unbenign scenario, well, there's a wide range of, what's the thing that you're most worried about when you look at, when you've been talking for years about the need for regulation, what is the scenario that really keeps you up at night? Well, I don't think the AI is going to try to destroy all humanity, but it might put us under strict controls. But I mean, there's no non-zero chance of it going Terminator. It's not 0%, but I think it's a small likelihood of annihilating humanity, but it's not zero. We want it at probability of zero, close to zero as possible. And then, like I said, the AI assuming control for the safety of all the humans and taking over all the computing systems and weapon systems of Earth and effectively being like some sort of Uber nanny. But isn't another scenario if you say that, yeah, like, well, let's say you're Miss World contact consent contestant. Hypothetically, it's unlikely, let's face it, and you say, what do you want? It's, I want world peace, and it's like, okay, well, one way to achieve world peace is to take all the weapons away from the humans. So they can no longer use them and to punish any humans that engage in, extraterritorial activity. But isn't the more likely nasty outcome that rather than AI taking over and being the ultimate nanny that keeps us all doing stuff that is super safe and it wants us to, that actually somebody nefariously harnesses that power to achieve societal control / military superiority? And that actually some country around the world decides to use it in a different way? Yes, that's what I mean by like AI uses as a weapon, right? And the pen is mightier than the sword. So one of the first places we have to be careful of AI being used is in social media to manipulate public opinion. So the reason that Twitter is going to a primarily subscriber-based system is because it is dramatically harder to create. It's like 10,000 times harder to create an account that has a verified phone number from a credible carrier that has a credit card and that pays a small amount of money per month. And have those credit cards and phone numbers be highly distributed, not clustered. Incredibly difficult. So, whereas in the past, someone could create 1 million fake accounts for a penny apiece and then manipulate, have something appear to be very, very much liked by the public when in fact it is not, or promoted and retweeted when in fact it is not, its popularity is not real, and essentially game the system. So the bias towards AI is a subscription-based verification, I think, is very powerful, and that really you won't be able to trust any social media company that does not do this, because it will simply be overrun with bots to such an extreme degree. So if we take it back to where we started, if you look at the election that's coming up, how big a role will this big shift in AI capability over the last few months, which will obviously continue through the next year, how big an impact is this going to play, do you think, in the messaging and the way that people get told the different pictures of the candidates? I think that's something we need to go look at for in a big way, is to make sure that we're minimizing the impact of AI manipulation. It was very certainly very much taking that seriously at Twitter, and I think we're putting in place all of the protections to minimize and certainly detect when we see large-scale manipulation of the system, especially if you go further out into the future. Everything will be automatic. There'll be household robots that you can fully talk to. So there are people that can help your own house or be a companion or whatever the case may be. There will be humanoid robots throughout, factories ours will also be all automatic. And anything that were intelligence can be applied even modest intelligence will be automated say like. So if you say like 10 to 20 years from now, and will we be connected to that technology through a neural ink type? Is that where this, in your view, obviously, is that where this heads? Well, a high bandwidth interfacer from the cortex to the your sort of computing or AI tertiary layer, which already exists, it's just that we don't have a high bandwidth connection. We've got a limit system, which is a sort of foundational element that's sort of our instincts and desires and whatnot are. They're not cortex on top of that, which is a thinking part of our brain, and about a tertiary digital layer, which is currently in the form of our phones and computers and laptops and whatnot, and all the applications and the constraint on a better merging constraint on having human interests and machine interests be aligned is the bandwidth, especially the output. So if you select at what speed can you output to a computer, it's using voice or your fingers, which will move very slowly. So you're talking about maybe 10 bits per second or some fairly small data rate. So with the neural link, you can increase that by, increase that by 1 million probably. So everything just speeds up. It's up, yeah, okay. This is obviously in a relatively benign scenario because there's a question of not just, let's say it's a benign scenario. How do we even appreciate or understand what the computer is doing, right? How do we go? How do we go along for the ride? And if we have a better brain-machine interface that's 1 million times faster, then we're more like, we'll go along for the ride a lot better, right? That then if we're interfacing with a phone using 2 slow-moving meat sticks, if you put it like that, 20 to 30-year time frame, I think things will be transformed beyond belief, right? You probably think you probably won't recognize society in 30 years. I do think we're fairly close. You asked me about artificial general intelligence. I think we're perhaps only 3 years, maybe 6 years away from it. Does this decade, so the impact, arguably, we are on the event horizon of the black hole that is social superintelligence. So there's Elon Musk on the AI revolution and why he thinks it's going to fundamentally change the way humans live over the next decade. With his work at Twitter, Tesla, and SpaceX, Elon would have to be one of the most informed and knowledgeable people on Earth when it comes to the development and risks of AI. So naturally, his warnings and predictions carry a lot of weight. The 2 main opportunities Elon sees looking out are firstly in artificial intelligence, and then on the crypto front is Dogecoin. If you're a believer in Elon and think that Twitter is likely to back Dogecoin and incorporate it into its platform, it's probably a good opportunity. One thing that Dogecoin does have that Bitcoin and Ethereum do not is the power of its cult-like following and its meme status that can make it go viral at the drop of a hat. Over the last month, we saw the power of meme coins with a new coin pep rocketing to over $1 billion in just 2 weeks. If we get another meme coin run in the next bull run, it's likely Dogecoin will do multiples again. But what do you guys think? Do you think AI is as dangerous as Musk makes it out to be? Do you think he has abandoned Bitcoin? Let me know in the comments. Anyway guys, hope you all enjoyed today's video and that provided you with some value. I'll see you all on the next one, and as always, all the best.